As every major company races to fill their driving games with the most popular cars, I'm encouraged that there are still developers going the opposite direction. It's not that I don't appreciate the work that goes into modeling licensed cars and real-world locations, but there's so much more you can do in a video game. Perhaps that's why I was intrigued by Chariot Wars, a brand new racer that trades massive horsepower for a single horse pulling a cart. Set in ancient Rome, this recent Steam release is dripping with potential. This is an excessively violent time in history, full of gladiators and chariot racers willing to kill in order to get ahead. It's also a time before massive skyscrapers reached into the sky and roads were paved. If done right, the Roman Empire should be a fertile jumping-off point for just about any genre. Unfortunately, this lousy racer is yet another stark reminder that video games need more than a solid concept. The year is 128 AD, and Circus Maximus is upon us. Famous names from around the Empire have come to compete in this epic chariot race. But just as things are about to get underway, Quintus Octavian discovers the body of a crucified Ben-Hur. This sets him off on a quest to uncover the killer and bring them to justice. He does this by taking Ben-Hur's place in the race, a mission fraught with dangers. You would think that tracking a killer by pretending to be a charioteer would be the worst thing to happen to Quintus today, but I would argue that appearing in this frustrating racing game is even worse. He doesn't stand a chance on the racetrack, and it's not because he's woefully out of practice. This is, without a doubt, the worst playing racing game I've seen in years. It's so buggy and hard to control that I had to double check to make sure my computer wasn't about to explode. Chariot Wars is the kind of racer that has you starting in dead last, forced to spend the next 2 laps trying to catch up. This wouldn't be so bad if they were more subtle about what was going on. You don't just start in last, you actively watch all the competition speed ahead as if they were being pulled by rocket-powered horses. Things go from bad to worse when you try steering the chariot. Because there's no gamepad support, players are forced to use the arrows on the keyboard. This is not ideal. It effectively limits the gameplay to pushing the gas pedal, braking around corners, and steering left and right. You can pick up tokens on the track to act as a speed boost, but all that does is make the game even more difficult to control. The awful frame rate doesn't help. My computer exceeded the recommended specs, and yet there are moments where the game chugs along at a single-digit frame rate. This is especially bad when the other racers are on the course, but it's not exactly smooth in the single-player time trials either. This compounds the control problem, giving Chariot Wars a decidedly floaty feel. It's easy to oversteer and get into trouble, and once that happens, you might as well start the race over from scratch. There are only a few stages to race, each with a night and day variation. The locations are nice and the tracks aren't offensive, but there isn't enough variety and everything is locked away at the start. About the best thing I can say about the stages is that the tracks are nice and wide, something you'll appreciate as your chariot zigzags to victory. In theory, winning each tournament will unlock upgrades, including a faster horse and fancier chariot. It also opens up another few pages of the story, told entirely through comic book panels. I hate to say it, but this is the best part of Chariot Wars, and even then, the story will feel awfully familiar. It's the game's opening cinema that ultimately sets the player up for disappointment. It's full of exciting crashes and racers who fight amongst themselves, none of which makes an appearance in the finished game. The cinema sets up the prospect of adding weapons to your chariot, something that never materializes. In fact, it's hard not to look at the introduction movie as little more than a lie. Let's not mince words here. Chariot Wars is a crushing disappointment. As bad as the graphics are, the frame rate is even worse. What's more, the game is staggeringly frustrating to control, and it has a funny habit of breaking at inopportune times. Couple that with characters that look like placeholders from the 32-bit era, and a racer that seems to be floating above the chariot, and you have one of the worst games of the year. You know, I don't take any pleasure in trashing a game. I went into this one really excited, because I do believe in this concept, and I think it would be cool if done correctly. Let's hope their next game is better. Anyway, I'm hard at work on more reviews, including Adventures of Pip and Badland. Yesterday I posted a look back at the first E3 I covered, all the way back in 2002. You should check that out if you haven't already. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you should subscribe to this channel and watch some of our past videos. Yeah, that sounds about right.